Let us discuss some interesting things regarding color. Whenever you see an object, it appears some color. Let us say yellow, blue, green, black, white, something else. Okay. So how these colors are visible to us? So the light which is coming from the sun is white in color. Right? Actually, white is not a color. The light which is coming from the sun is white. So Newton proved that the white light consists of many colors. So when this white light falls on any surface, okay, if the surface reflects all the light which is falling on it, then that surface appears as white. Once again, if the surface or the object reflects all the white light falling on it, then it appears as white in color. Then what about black? So if the object absorbs all the light energy, okay, and it is not reflecting any part of that light, so totally it is absorbing the light which is coming from the source of light or sun, then that object appears as black in color. So for example, our hair and etc. appears black in color because no light is reflecting from that surface. Right? Let us see yellow. So how the objects appears yellow in color? When light falls on these objects, only yellow color will be reflecting. All the other colors are absorbed by the surface. So only yellow reflecting back, so that the object appears as yellow, because yellow light is reaching our eye, so that it appears as yellow. So what about blue? Can you explain? Yes. Okay. So the surface is absorbing all the colors and reflecting only blue color. So the blue color is reaching our eye, so that the surface appears as blue in color. Similarly, green surface also. If any object is appearing green, for example, leaves appears green in color. What does it mean? It means that that object absorbs all the light energy except green. So green is reflecting from that, so it appears as green in color. So this is how we see the colors. Whenever you see an object which is some color, immediately you have to understand this concept. That color, only that particular color is reflecting from that, so we can see that color. Now you understood how an object appears in different colors and what is the concept behind that. Coming back to our angle of deviation produced by the prism, let us try to understand on what factors the angle of deviation produced by the prism depends. So the first thing is refractive index of the prism. If the refractive index of the prism is greater, then the angle of deviation produced by the prism will be greater. So angle of deviation is directly proportional to the refractive index of the prism. For a particular wavelength of light or for a particular color of the light, refractive index of the prism increases, then the deviation also increases. And coming to the second factor, angle of deviation depends on wavelength of the light used. Here is the all concept. So the angle of deviation produced by the prism is inversely proportional to the wavelength of the light. So what does it mean? It means that as the wavelength of the light increases, then deviation produced by the prism decreases. If the wavelength of the light used decreases, then the angle of deviation produced by the prism will be increased. You know, the sunlight consists of ultraviolet light and visible light and infrared. So the colors which are in the range of visible, that will be calling as visible spectrum, that only we can see. So in this visible colors, visible spectrum, we have a variety of colors. Each color has a particular wavelength. So now you can understand what is the wavelength of different colors and how the wavelength is increasing color to color. So if you see for violet, the wavelength is 400 to 450 nanometers, and blue 450 to 500 nanometers, etc. And coming to red, it is 610 to 700 nanometers. So here the red color has maximum wavelength and the violet color is the minimum wavelength in the visible spectrum. Can you tell me which color has a maximum angle of deviation when it is passed through the prism? Yes, exactly. Violet deviates more and red color deviates very less. As violet has a minimum wavelength, it deviates more, and red has maximum wavelength, it deviates less. It was Sir Isaac Newton experimenting with sunlight and glass prism discovered that white light from the sun was composed of many colors. He made a small circular opening in the window of a darkened room and placed a prism near the hole in such a way that light was incident on one face of the prism, and after refraction in the prism, the light fell on the opposite wall of the room. Here we are placing a screen. Instead of white light, there was a set of colored lights, red at the top, then orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet at the lower edge. Thus, a spectrum of 7 colors is produced from the white light. Hence, the splitting of white light into its constituent colors is called dispersion of light. This is one of the phenomenon exhibited by the light, like reflection, refraction. As we know that the wavelength of different colors is different. So the violet has least wavelength among the pattern of colors, and the red color has maximum wavelength. So already we discussed the angle of deviation is inversely proportional to wavelength. So we can see here the violet bends more, means deviates more than the red color. Here you may get it out. Where is the prism in the nature to form a rainbow when sunlight falls on it? So if you observe carefully, rainbow forms just after the rain. So that means just after the rain, there are some droplets in the air or on the grass or on the leaves of the tree. These droplets, means water droplet, act as a prism for the light. The raindrops behave like a tiny prism. A rainbow is formed due to a combination of refraction, dispersion and total internal reflection. When rays of the sun falls on the raindrops disperse the light and deviate the different colors by refraction and total internal reflection to the eye of the observer. This forms a rainbow. You can see a rainbow on a sunny day when you look at the sky through a waterfall or through a water fountain with the sun behind you, while on the ground we see only a part of the rainbow. This is because the earth cuts off a portion of the rainbow circle. But when the rainbow is viewed from an aeroplane, then we see it as a complete circle.